everybody. I had a request from Ladine for darker red hair, so I'm going to be doing that today. This is one of the Christmas fairies from Sugar Nellie, Wish Upon a Star, and I have her stamped with Memento Tuxedo Black ink on Copic X-Press It cardstock. And I also had just general requests to also show my coloring up the skin as well. So I'm going to quickly start with the skin, since that's my process. I kind of do skin, hair, and then clothes and everything else on an image. So my basic go-tos, E000. And for this image, I'm going to have my light source coming in from the right, because that's kind of the direction she's facing. So I'm just going to quickly get my color on, laying down that kind of base coat. And there's not a lot of skin tone to do, so this shouldn't take too long. And I don't know how much explaining this needs. I'm just kind of taking my E00 now and reinforcing the shadow areas. And don't forget the hand back here. And then E11 is my darkest, and that is just going on very light, casting those shadows there around the curve of her cheek, down to her chin, and up a little bit here on the underside. And I'm going to do a little bit on her nose as well, underneath that sleeve and down the back side of her hand. Now I'm going back up with the E00 right over top the 11, blending out further than I did the first time. Pull up on that nose a bit. And then just blend it all together real quickly with the E000. A little circular motion right across the face there. And then I'm going to give her some pink cheeks with a R00 and R20. The R00 I just used, it kind of dilutes the R20 down. It's not a necessity. You could go straight to R20. I just like how it knocks the color down just a little bit, because this is the R00 again in the R20. And then take my E00 and blend back over the top there and over here, and my E000 and blend in those cheeks from the top. And that is it on the skin for her. So not too bad. Not make sure I'm still in the shot there. Okay. So now I have two dark red hair combos that are kind of my go-tos. And so this first one that I'm going to do is using E15, E07, E19, E18. There's actually no YRs or orange markers in this one, but it gives me a nice auburn hair color, I think. So I wanted to show that one today. And so I'm going to start with my E15, and I'm just going to start laying color in kind of opposite the light source, since I have it coming in from the right. But I do want to get a little bit of color where the hair is parting, because that's going to be a little bit more in shadow. And then I kind of get underneath here, and then I'm going to leave a white highlight area here to start with. That'll end up being our lightest hair at the end. And so I'm just always trying to pull in the direction of the hair, how it grows. And this isn't, we're not trying to be pretty right now. We're just getting a little bit of color on. Okay, and then I got this braid back here, which I'm just going to get a little bit of this E15 on. Okay. Now, the E07, which is more red. This is where we're going to get a lot of our red tone for this hair. And I'm just going right over top the E15, just not dragging it as far as I did the E15 the first time around. Oops. Went a little bit out, but I'll just use my colorless blender and push that back in at the end. Not a big deal. Okay, and just a little opposite that light source down the back side of the hair there. Oh, I have a little curl of hair that I almost lost over there. Okay, now E19 is my next color. Again, starting in that just a little bit. And then here on the back side of her head, kind of flicking motions, pulling towards, over top her head in the same direction as it's growing, following those lines there. Kind of halving the distance again as we did on the E07. And my darkest is the E18. And just a hint of that for contrast. Okay, get down this ponytail. Here. Okay, so we've laid all the color down. Now I'm going to work my way, I've worked up. Now I'm going to work back down to the E19. This is where I start blending the colors together. So I'm going to just start right over that E18, blend out, always pulling in that direction of the hair growing. Going the same over here. Pull up on this side. Just squiggle that. Okay. Now to the E07. And I'm not going all the way back to the E18. I'm kind of starting here in the middle of the E19. Pulling in. Same on this side. Pull up on here, down here, and then finally we have our E15, and that's, I'm just going to use here in the center. Again, just blending a bit. And if you want it super shiny, be sure to leave a little bit of white going through there, and that'll give you a really high gloss look. Or if you like to fill it in like I do, you just take your lightest color. Now we're using that light E15, kind of coming down the ponytail. On there. And on these bangs. Now you could be done with that, but if you like the look of adding in some low lights across the hair, jump back up to your darkest color, the E18 in this case, and just with the very tip of the brush tip, with a light flicking motion, and you can follow over the lines provided to get you going, and you just go across that whole hair with little flicking motions. And that's just going to give you a nice contrast and make it look more like strands of hair, individual strands of hair, instead of kind of a flat, almost, could look helmet-like sometimes, but totally up to you. I just like the look of adding in the little strands of hair here and there. And then again, just following some of the lines. Real loose. Okay. Get that back side of her head there where it's still in shadow. And I'm going to call that finished. She's a pretty small image, so it was pretty quick, but it could be used on, you know, any stamp, and it just gives you a nice, really dark auburn, reddish brown hair, but definitely more on the red family than a brunette, I would say. And I'm going to thank you for watching that. I'm going to get ready and come back with my other dark red hair color combination in a second. So I'll see you then. Bye.